Welcome to Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and this week I'm delighted to be joined by John MacLaughlin. John MacLaughlin, welcome to Barra's Art and Design. It's your second appearance on a Celtic State of Mind. I was just looking this morning, 6 years since you've been on.
Oh, is it? God, time flies.
You've been pretty busy though.
Been quite busy, yeah. Been quite busy, yeah. Keep the real for the kids on the street.
Yeah, we'll cover a wee bit of what we spoke about last time round. And we'll obviously get a complete update of what you've been up to. But we're in the heart of the East End of Glasgow, the Barras. And I was saying just before we went live there, the Barrowlands, the relationship I've got was basically me and my brother coming to gigs. And I always remember some great times, always going into the Beards for a jar beforehand, more of a music thing than a football thing for me. What's your memories of the Barrowlands as a fan, first and foremost?
But it's the Mecca, isn't it? It's for me, it used to be the Apollo when I was a young boy getting my age away. You sneak into the Apollo, or you'd stand in the lane and listen to some of the bands if you couldn't afford the tickets. So for me, the Apollo was the Clash and all that stuff. But as you get a wee bit older, you gravitated to the Barras, because that's where all the great bands were playing. The Simple Minds, early shows when they were just breaking, U2 and all that as well. Echo and the Bunnymen. So these were just incredible bands to see in that venue, and there's something special about it. I think there's just the atmosphere. I don't know if it's the shape of it. It's hard to get a pint. It's a sticky floor.
Isn't it?
It's real. It's absolutely brilliant. And for me, one of my proudest moments in the Barras was when I done the Bay City Rollers reunion with Les, Alan and Woody. We put on one night, no knowing if anybody was going to go. That sold out in 12 minutes. Second night sold out, third night, 4 nights in a row at the Bay City Rollers. And for women of a certain age, you think this could be a wee bit tame. It was absolute carnage. It was like going to see the Clash. It was bonkers. Absolutely brilliant. So I love the Barras. Absolutely love the Barras.
I do as well. As I say, it's real, it's authentic. I remember Paul Weller talking about going into venues and feeling the vibe of the venue from the floorboards up. It's a bit like that, the Barrowlands.
Totally that.
You've mentioned twice already the Clash. Now, I need to bring this up because someone who's watching this might know the answer, right? But Mick Jones appeared on French TV whilst a member of Big Audio Dynamite wearing a Celtic away strip from 1989. And I've often wondered, right, who was the roadie that handed him that? You might have a wee bit more information on this.
Well, I don't know exactly about that, but I do know that they did a soft spot for Celtic, Joe, as well. I think a lot of it comes from Celtic being the socialist club, the club on the right side of everything. So I think obviously with that's how they as a band were. So I think there's that. But Mick was telling, I got to know Mick over the years. I stalked him basically in Chiswick. I used to see him, used to run the street away, like, "You're such a brass neck," or just a fanboy. Mick, and talked to him. And then eventually became quite pally with him. And we done the Justice for Tonight gigs for the Liverpool supporters. We've done that with the Bunnymen, the Farm, Mick Jones and James for Las Vegas and all that. So I got to know him then. But we were backstage after one of the shows and we're talking about Celtic, and I was saying to him, so what's the whole Celtic thing? So I got a soft spot. I said, we used to watch when we were rehearsing, we did wee telly in the Shepherd's Bush, just in the rehearsal room. And it must have been in the 80s when Celtic were really pish, and he said we'd watch this and we'd watch all these Celtic fans, they'd be getting gubbed 2-0 by Queen of the South or whatever, and they'd be singing, "Always look on the bright side of life," and they'd be like, we need to support that team, right? So we tried it backstage. There was me, my wife and all that, and a whole bunch of people, and you just started, see if it worked, and it was "Always look on," and everybody joined in.
Brilliant.
See, it works every time.
You're learning about Celtic all the time, and one thing that you're consistently learning is that people love Celtic, and a lot of these people are creative musicians, filmmakers, writers, and I think we spoke about this the last time, John. Do you think a big part of that is obviously the political side of the football club, which goes hand in hand? A lot of people don't like that, don't like talking about it, but Celtic were born of oppression, of a political nature. And there are obviously the Irish diaspora and the links and the heritage of the football club. But you in the music industry must have met loads of folk who love the Celtic.
It's so strange. It's like you could rhyme off bands, artists, singers from Primal Scream through to Claire Grogan to, you can just Paolo Nutini, Lewis Capaldi, you could Texas, you could just, you know, and they're all Celtic fans. And I don't think that's by accident or default. And I think it is. I think it comes from our heritage. We're brought up with music, you know, either be it, you know, traditional Irish music, rebel music, whatever you're brought up with, it's part of the thing. It's part of our Irish history. And I think that seeps in. And I think we've talked as well about, I grew up in Milton, or the Milton to give it its proper title, not off Campsie, off Possil. And that was your two escape routes as well, was football or music, you know. And Frank McAvenny lived in the corner, so he got the golden cherry, he got it, man, you know. So, but no, I think that is a thing when you look at actors and you see playwrights and poets and
Comedians.
Yeah. They're all there, you know. It's like, so I definitely think that's a thing. I think it's in us, and I think it's kind of passed down. And it just, even just the love of music, I think it's passed down to us, you know, which is a gift.
Oh, it is a gift. It's like having the love of Celtic passed through the generations. And we're speaking to a producer called Peter Braun, who you might know, and he's been working on the Celtic Story for years, still is, and it seems to be coming to fruition. And he had this kind of sense that it's a freedom of expression as well, because obviously if you go right back to why the Irish were here in Scotland, it's because they're fleeing a scenario and a situation in Ireland. And so when they get here, there's the community aspect of sticking together. But then at night time, where you've got nothing, John, what you've got is each other, you've got stories and you've got songs. And within the songs, there's a great story. And I think that's when I was younger, like yourself, listening to the Irish music that's getting played constantly in the house, particularly when the family were around, New Year and all this kind of stuff, there was always a song to the music. It wasn't just, you know, painting by numbers, right? That rhymes with that. And you're learning about Irish history. It's sensational, actually, when you think about it. So you get to a point where you're maybe 15 or 16, you know a hell of a lot more about Irish history than you've even intended to know. It just goes out. Song.
It just goes in, and that's why these songs are there, I think, you know, and they were written at these times. So I think that's why they're so powerful, you know. And I think as well that the melodies of these songs are so unbelievably infectious, you know, and the ballads are so beautiful. And you probably hear your ma, your granny, your dad singing them. So you kind of, that's how I got to know some of these songs as well. Even like even in more modern times, Dirty Old Town and stuff, and or the place the town I know love so well and things like that. So they just become part of you, and you don't know why, but you just know them instantly, and they just stay with you, you know.
No, without a doubt. And then you pass them on to the next.
That's it. My kids certainly know them.
Yeah, I know, it's embedded. It's embedded. You mentioned some great Scottish bands there. We had a situation on Sunday night at this very venue where Manny comes up. He actually flew over from Dublin. He was with Oasis over in Dublin.
Brilliant.
Might touch on them a wee bit. And he comes here and he's a legend. Manny, an absolute legend. The Primal Scream and the Stone Roses. And there's a moment where we're doing a wee bit near the end of the night. Anybody got any questions, you know? And there's Bobby Bluebell pops up.
Of course.
And you're thinking, only in Glasgow could this happen. He ends up on the stage and it's almost like a vox popping between Manny and Bobby Bluebell, and I'm looking at the two of them going, this is sensational. Nobody in the crowd expected this to happen. And it was a stark reminder that all the cool cats support that team called Celtic, called Celtic. And even Manny was telling the stories that he loved the numbers on the shorts back in the day.
So did I.
And you know, he says, and I finally figured out what it was. It's so that when Jimmy Johnson skins a defender, the defender knows who skinned him because he just sees the number 7 going away into the distance.
It's just a blur.
Absolutely. But Manny had travelled over from Dublin. He'd been over to see Oasis. I think he was DJing for them. And again, the Irish roots within not only the Roses with Manny, but he spoke about Johnny Marr with the Smiths, and of course with Oasis with the two Gallagher brothers and Bonehead. And I think Tony McCarroll and Quigsy were of Irish descent as well. What do you make of bands coming back like Oasis and doing what they've done? They've absolutely smashed it.
Smashed it at the park. They're really, I mean, anybody that can make money out of music, I will stand up and applaud, and I'll be first at the bar for them because it's so difficult these days. So I'm all about that, definitely. And I think, especially with bands like Oasis, who I was a huge fan of the first time round, but I think what it does, it maybe is a knock-on effect. And this is coming from a guy who made his career out of pop music, right? and disposable pop music, quite a lot of it. But I think bands like Oasis, there should be some kind of filter now. I think you'll find younger kids picking up guitars again.
Yeah.
You'll find bands forming. The last 10 years or so, without being, snooty or anywhere about it, it's not been great. It's been, either TikTok or one-off tracks and kind of faceless success for a lot of these artists and bands. I get good luck to them that can make money out of Spotify. You're doing something right.
Yeah.
But for me, it would be absolutely amazing to see a kind of upturn again in bands and proper rock and roll. That's what I come from,
That's a great shout, and it would be because of a band having to come back to restart that process, because there was like a lineage which has been broken. Because where did Oasis get their inspiration? Well, it was the Stone Roses. They spoke about that. I know they were inspired by the Beatles, the music of the Beatles and various other bands, but it was the Roses that they saw on a stage and thought, we can do that. And, there is this lineage, but it's broken. I'm not sure who the next big band. And again, a big part of this, you'll know more than me about this, John. Touring's so expensive now that people are doing solo rather than full band. Do you think that comes
It really is. And the malarkey that is Brexit that's just absolutely scuppered bands going abroad. Because what you'd be able to do, even if you were doing okay and you were breaking but maybe not selling millions of records, you could go France, Italy and all that, and that's what you'd make up the shortfall, keep the band going, but that's just practically impossible these days, so that's so that makes it even harder. But I'm hoping again that changes and there's some way of fixing that, because it's outrageous how expensive it is to tour now.
Well, you think about the Beatles in Hamburg. The Roses were in Sweden. There are bands that went away to
That's right.
build a fan base somewhere else as well, and it was pivotal to their development as a band. A very interesting thing happened in here one night. We were doing a gig with Martin O'Neill, the great Martin O'Neill.
Yes.
He done a voiceover for you, didn't he?
He did.
Well?
He did.
Come back to that. And we're in this very room, and we always say to people, what do you fancy for? And I find this quite interesting. What's your rider? Right, just in case I say M&Ms, but no blue ones and all this stuff. So
I do that.
You've got to, aye. Martin was quite, simple. Red, give me some red wine, some sandwiches, brilliant. So he's up here having a wee glass of red, but he was really, really friendly with James and Rab Allen from Las Vegas. So earlier on, James's sister had asked, we're meeting Martin for a bite. Can we come up to the gig? Obviously. And they're in here, John, chewing the fat, and I'm standing at that side of the room watching Martin O'Neill, James and Rab Allen for Las Vegas just chewing the fat. It was two worlds colliding in that moment. But Las Vegas and Martin are two guys or two groups of people that you've actually worked with.
Yeah, I know Martin very, very well, and so he done Best Days of Our Life, done the wee voiceover brilliantly, dare I say it. And
the way he says Lisbon.
Isn't it? It's such conviction in it, and he's brilliant, a lovely, lovely man as well, our Martin, and I'm a huge Las Vegas fan. I've been from day one, and I just seen them there a few weeks back over on the south side, and they were just incredible. Some new tracks, a new record coming, and I'm friends with Denise and all that as well. But I just love that sound, that real big, dirty Phil Spector, Jesus and the Mary Chain. No messing about, and I love James's his lyrics and his vocal. He's one of the great
storyteller, isn't he?
Another storyteller, and a pure rock and roll. And I remember the first time I seen him, it was a wee pub somewhere, and he still had the sunglasses on and all that. Just a instant rock star, and I love that. You've got to have the swag if you're going to do it, and he's certainly got it. So
without a doubt.
Yeah, so yeah, two of them together, that makes it. Because Martin's a huge music fan, huge music fan.
So I think in his book he speaks about, when he was growing up and in his Nottingham Forest days, and it was all great bands like Kinks and all that. He was in it,
Yeah.
But in the kind of modern day, he likes Mogwai and he likes Las Vegas, and he's got great taste, John.
Oh, he knows what he's doing. I went to see, we're talking about the Barras, I went to see Kneecap.
Brilliant.
At the Barras, and that was just, part of it was brilliant, but weirdly in the back of my mind I was thinking, I better see Martin O'Neill here in the front of Balaclava. But that was one of the greatest shows I've ever seen. That was just carnage as well.
And out of nowhere came Kneecap. It's like we're talking about a lineage of they're inspired by them. And I remember the first time I heard the Kneecap, what actually happened was we were doing sessions. We had a wee studio we were working from in Dalkeith, and we were getting up and coming artists to come and do a wee session. And it was, some of them were phenomenal, like Brooke Combe came in, Rhiannon Downey came in. And we've got some established artists as well, like Gaz Whelan from the Mondays, Mick Head from Pale Fountains and Shack. And it was building up momentum. And we did an interview with this chap, Daniel Lambert, at the time. But because he was doing things with Bohemians, the football club, and he was the chief operating officer, that were, I was thinking, kind of like left wing, and we were thinking, you know, this guy's a rebel, that team's a rebel side. And obviously, you know, they now have Oasis or Fontaine's DC on their jerseys and stuff. And near the end of it, almost just like as an afterthought, you know, what else are you up to? Oh, you know, managing this wee band for Ireland, you know, they're a Republican hip hop band. And I remember thinking, what does that even sound like?
Yeah.
You know, so where do you grab your inspiration from? That is just like a mix, a mashup of obviously, like, you know, early 90s hip hop, Irish rebel music. The political nature of that band is incredible. What they've done has been so brave.
They're spectacular. And on paper, it's not something that I would normally go to or be into. My son was into it, so I was hearing it bellowing at his room, and I was thinking, that sounds mental and brilliant. What is that, you know? And as soon as I started, it was like punk rock again. It was like, wow, this is something else. But the tunes are amazing. The live performances are incredible. And it's that thing, it's the fans that make it as well. Just they know what to do. You know, don't get me wrong, I was at the back with the old Celtic Daz.
I'm at that stage myself, Joe.
I mean, not quite, but even just to watch it was just phenomenal. You know, it was like the early Pogues gigs or something. It was just the crowd were part of the show, and the boys in Kneecap they understand that. It's like a kind of proper unity thing, you know.
It's incredible because it's brave.
And clever, very clever. The writing is so clever, you know, and then delivered just in this brilliant package. So, and also a lot of humour, which, you know, if you can do that, if you can get humour and your political point across and deliver it with punk rock, hip hop, and a balaclava, what's not to love?
I know. The film is great as well.
Oh, the film is tremendous.
I seen recently a short part of an interview with Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine, and he name-checked Kneecap, and I just thought, wow, you know, this message is going worldwide.
It's travelling.
Absolutely. And they're rebels. And we come back to the rebel because I think Celtic are rebels at heart.
Oh, yeah.
The fan base are as well. I want to touch on Days of Our Lives, though, because we released Acsom, a charity single a few years ago, and I remember I sent it to you. You were very kind about it. And your words, the glory and the dream it was. It was JJ Gilmour wrote it alongside Gary John Kane. And it was an old demo that had just lay in the vault, and we got the Wakes to redo it, and it was a great experience, and it raised some money for charity, which was fantastic. So I remember when we were doing it, I started thinking, a modern Celtic songbook, you know, of tunes like the one we're about to discuss, that have been written in the last 25, 30 years. You know, that compilation CD that you would listen to going to the games. And that one there, I've said to you before you came on, I've unearthed footage of you guys in the studio, which you might not even have seen.
I'd love to see that.
Video footage.
I'd love to see that.
And you're wearing a white jersey.
That's right.
Right? A white woolly kind of style jersey. I don't know if it's like kind of like a Stone Island style woolly jersey. And you're with, there's two sessions. So you're with Jinky, and I think Jinky and Bobby, and you're with Bertie and Stevie.
That's right. That's
And
right.
you're in session.
And then there's another one as well where it's Billy McNeil and all that, and Bertie. Bertie was in everything because he's Bertie, right? So he's got to be in everything. And you look back in that now, and it's just mind blowing that I got to spend that time with these absolute heroes, you know, legends and heroes who were the greatest people you could ever hope to meet. The most humble, funny, you know, absolutely take the piss the whole time.
Yeah.
And Betty, I mean, I'll say a quick story about Betty. We were flying back from London, or either going to London or come back from London one time, and I meet Betty at the airport, and he gets his seat changed to sit next to me and my wife. And from the minute he sits down, he's ringing the thing, and he's getting the air hostess over, and he gets his sandwich, and then he stand up to, this is the greatest sandwich I've ever had. No, he never laughed. He was coming back from Vegas, right? And I think he'd having a good time in Vegas. And we were waiting in the carousel to get and there's this case on the carousel, and it's like pink and it's covered in green tape and big blue writing and stuff all stuck to it. And Betty goes over and lifts it off. And this Italian guy runs over and he says, "Oh, sorry, son, I thought it was mine. I've got one the exact same." And that's just Betty. And he was the same in the studio. You know, it's like, I'm trying to get him to sing, "That was the best," and try to teach football players to do any kind of harmony. Now, considering their timing was so great, we bought their feet, shocking timing in a recording studio. You got all this going on while Betty's, you know, throwing things at them and all that while they're trying to, and Jinky was the same. But brilliant. One of my greatest fit memories of that as well. We took a ball to the studio and just doing Headies with Jimmy Johnston. You're like,
incredible.
It's just, you go to your bed and you go, wow, that actually happened. I don't know if you've seen the video, but we filmed loads of Celtic.
I was going to ask you about the video because I'm not sure I've seen it. Is it on YouTube?
It's on YouTube. Yeah, it's on YouTube because I brought Shane MacGowan up and all. That's what started my relationship with Shane. So, but we were doing getting the fans to sing it, and so we had the boys in the studio, the Lisbon Lions. Because at that time, I think Celtic were kind of trying to move away from celebrating the Lisbon Lions as much as they had. Maybe they were trying to kind of look at a new modern thing, but and I was living in London. I don't know if you move away, you become even more fiercely proud of things. So that's why we wanted to make that record and try and get it in the charts and all that stuff. But that's what, so that record's been one of my proudest things that I've ever been involved in. And the byproduct of that was it started my, you know, years of friendship with the late great Shane MacGowan as well. So that's one of my favourite and most of, you know, emotive records for me of all time.
I'll need to show you that footage, John.
I'd love to see that.
I definitely will. And Martin O'Neill, of course, I think was really prominent in getting the Lions back into Celtic Park, and
he was
bringing them back in under his wing, because he tells a story about you watching the European Cup final in '67 when he was at school, a boarding school. And it was a priest, I think, that ended up, the telly wasn't working, he had to fix it, and they're sitting watching the game, he was transfixed. And there was this idea that he played with a team called Distillery, and Celtic sent a scout to go over and see him. And years later, I think there was an international game, Ireland were playing Scotland, and he got a chance to speak to Jock Stein. He says, you know, you sent a scout over, and Jock said that he remembered them, but Martin says there's no way he remembered me. You know, you've just been polite. But you just imagine how, you know, things would have been different if Martin O'Neill came over and played for Celtic. But a great man, a fantastic man, and
great manager.
A great manager, I know.
Bless Martin.
You're coming in here having been busy last night, so we won't talk about Celtic in Europe this week, John.
No.
Not as exciting.
So it ain't over till the fat lazy sings.
Right.
Saying goes. So
You're
it's
right.
not quite the disaster that I think it's deemed. I'm just put down one of those nights. Just one of those that didn't click.
Couldn't you get into the rhythm? Just couldn't get any rhythm.
No.
But you've mentioned the Clash, you've mentioned Las Vegas, and we're now talking about Shane MacGowan now. Shane MacGowan, again, growing up, it was the music that was played in my house, the storytelling. It was the strange thing about his voice, people going about his voice, but his voice was like an instrument, John.
Oh, I think he's a great singer. He's a tremendous singer. Maybe not technically a great singer, but the sound of his voice and the delivery of these songs, only he could do it that way, you know. And that's what makes him special. Maybe in the kind of same Bob Dylan, Lou Reed kind of way, you know instantly who these people are. And that's the same for Shane. But he's a really good singer.
Yeah, without a doubt. He comes up to Glasgow to work on this record, and as you say, there was a friendship, a blossoming friendship, and the friendship was, you know, football, music, maybe a couple of wee bevies here and there as well.
The odd sherry.
And you recorded music with this man, the Celtic song. The EP was released. Remember? Was it the 50th anniversary, the Glenn Daly version?
We did.
Yeah.
I went over in Dublin to do that, so that was an interesting session as well. Shane's notoriously late because he had no concept of time whatsoever. None. So you book a studio for 4 days in the hope that it turns up once. So we were in the studio in Dublin, and as the basement. And well, actually, tell you this was we made a record with 3 priests they sell millions of records, and that was for this record as well.
Right.
And we're waiting at Shane. It didn't turn up. Then 2 days later, somebody's fallen down all the stairs of the studio. I go, it's got to be Shane. You open the door. He's gonna just lie in the body. Get me a gin. So he gets a pint of gin and a wee bit of coke, and you put the coke. Don't drown it, Johnny. Don't drown it. You're like, I'm just showing it. I'm just showing it.
Don't drown it.
That was saying, but what am I?
For the record, this is not gin.
That's not gin. No, that's
Diet Seville.
it is indeed. Yeah.
Brilliant. What an experience. I mean, you've worked with loads and loads of artists over your career, and we'll talk about that, written hit records, John. But when you're in a room with someone who you've got on a pedestal,
Adore.
like
Shane
Shane MacGowan,
Yeah.
but there's a friendship that develops as well with that, isn't
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And I think it is. I think it's because his knowledge of Ireland and poets, and fiercely proud of all his Irish critics. And he's born in London, but back to Tipperary, and that's what he's seen out his later days, you know, and in Dublin as well. But I think he was probably among just a very, very few people who really brought back traditional Irish music, you know, to the masses, not just to us that were lucky enough to have it in us, but to the masses, and made it cool again. At a time where obviously there was a lot of stuff going on with the IRA and all that, it was so difficult for the Pogues to get going, and they done that in spite of all that, and flew that flag high, you know, and thankfully it helped get these amazing incredible songwriting out to the world, and made traditional songs that he then covered, you know, Poor Paddy Works the Railway and all these kind of songs. It made them famous again and made people look back. And then I think that created more interest in looking at what happened in Ireland. So he was
the greatest songs, John.
for that. Oh, they're amazing.
And I think Thousands Are Sailing, for example, if you didn't know your history and you just listen to that song and look at the lyrics, it's unbelievable.
It's there, isn't it? It's just
talking
just
about ships and unbelievable artist, brain, songwriter, and you've worked with him. So, but not only that, you bring him up to Celtic Park, John.
Bring him to Celtic Park. That was my ploy, because I was getting all these people. I thought I need to get Shane MacGowan so I could meet him. I just wanted to meet him, because I've seen them loads at the historic Barrowlands gigs and all that, and where you had to go and you take a rainmate because everybody fire and beer about and all that. You came out completely soaking. But when I got to meet him, and he came up to do the song he sang on the record, and we just hit it off for whatever reason, and we started writing songs together, and we wrote Tomorrow Belongs to Me, which was on the B-side of one of these Celtic EPs we've done, and I took him up to Celtic a few times, and he loved Bears Bar and all that as well, and the hoops and all that. He loved being around Celtic fans. They adored him, and he adored them. And when I took him on at Celtic Park that day, obviously he'd been up drinking for like 4 days solid, right? And there's a wee thing when we're getting down, I tell it, and because I do my For the Love of Shane MacGowan, but when we're getting down the tunnel to go in the park, he hadn't really slept for, I'd say, 3 days, right? I was sitting in couches and all that, and kind of passing out. Occasionally I'd kind of look up, and Shane would be right there talking at you. But we were going down the tunnel, and he'd no slept, and he'd been drinking pints of gin, and Hoopy appears just at the bottom, and it really freaks him out. He's like, well, I was saying, I don't know if he was trying to dance with Hoopy, but it looked pretty much like he was attacking Hoopy right before he goes on to sing Best Days of Our Life. Misses his cue, Shannon, to sing his bit, and then he comes on, and then he's just proud. But when I go, Shane MacGowan, and the whole crowd just erupts, he was totally visibly shaken. He was like, oh, and he always talked about it so as if Victoria, his lovely wife, that meant so much to him. He couldn't believe that all those people loved him. You know, it was like Celtics going against Rangers. Yeah. It was just a massive cheer, and it really did mean a lot to him, you know. So I'm proud that I got to share that wee moment with him, you know. And then we went on through the years to write songs and hang out and make mental records with priests and the Celtic songs, and it was just such fun to be, and a very humble guy, hugely intelligent, and a great guy to be around. Of course, maybe not so great for your marriage a lot of the time. I'm going to see Shane. I'll be back in a couple of days, week, maybe 9 days.
Yeah, a drinking partner, maybe not so good.
Not so great.
See, when you're talking there about going on the park to perform in front of 60,000 Celtic fans, you're like an original Jungle Boy, if you like, go to the jungle
right.
and you're watching as a fan. Is there ever a moment, John, where it dawns on you that, you know, I was over there in the jungle, and anybody who was in the jungle know there's a romanticism about it.
Yep.
But actually, the reality of the jungle was it was a scary place at times as well. And
Standing in all the cans and all that. And I'm only wee, so I had to bundle up the cans.
it was, you know, the body heat. I always,
Oh, aye. Yeah,
no matter what
right.
the weight was, and the steam coming off people when it was raining and all that kind of stuff. And of course, singing the songs that,
Yeah.
that we're talking about, to then being transported at that moment on the park, performing in front of the 60,000 fans
Yeah.
that you would have been part of.
Yeah, I look back now and I think, you know, I was obviously kicking my pants, right? But I was like, how did I get through that? Because it is all the things run through your mind, and you try and concentrate.
Think of
what
your
you're doing.
family when you're doing
I
stuff
do.
like that.
My dad, my granddad, and all that, and to see the jungle, it was quite an experience. But way back, see when they shut the jungle down, and they were doing the jungle was still, they put in the first 5,000 seats. I don't know if you remember, they were doing
I went to the U2 gig and the seats were in the jungle.
that's right, they did
Yeah.
the first 5,000, and they done their fancy dress thing. Me and all my pals we went as Jesus and the 12 apostles in the seating of the 5,000.
You were photographed, John.
We had the photographs, we had the Jesus stuff, but we made a big giant cross, and we were walking along Duke Street with this big cross, and you just this policewoman up north going, "Get that down, that's going nowhere," and all that. It gives a right bollock, and we had to leave our big cross.
These were in the papers, John.
We were in the papers. That was my first taste of faith. Dressed up as Jesus at Celtic Bar. We had loaves and all that, and plastic fish.
Brilliant.
So it was. So that was my first. I got in the park, so they brought us on. We all get a big. So that was my first
There was a
taste
parrot.
in the park.
There was a parrot as well.
There was a
Aye.
parrot. It was Tiger Tim. That's right. I think we just came off the crossbar. I don't know. I think we were second. I think we won a ball or something between 12s. So
Fantastic.
disappointing.
But again, my memory of being in the jungle, it's your old fella taking you in there. But then when I see it seated, I'm at the U2 gig when they came to Celtic.
That's right.
Park,
Yeah,
'93.
that's there. Yeah.
And the amount of people I've spoken to who remember that gig, we mentioned Bobby Bluebell before, he was there. Las Vegas listened to the gig from afar. They couldn't get tickets, but Rab and James listened to that gig. And it was a moment, and people remembered, you know, U2 coming to Celtic Park. And at that time, I thought they had a wee bit about them in terms of the political nature and all that. And then they got huge. They became the biggest band on the planet.
Yep.
And I think they played the game a bit. Did you ever get an opportunity to meet U2? Have you ever worked with U2?
I didn't know. I didn't. And you're right. The bands like that, there's a tipping point where they just go, you know, it just goes into the you know, it's just huge, just tips right over. And yeah, I seen Bono once in Dublin in his pub, which is part of a hotel that he owns. I think he owns Dublin now, doesn't he? But so that's it. I was quite, because he's wee as me. So
It looks like us, because it was McFisto. Remember, he had an alter ego, the
right.
Zoo TV tour and all that. They were phenomenal at that
at
moment.
the time they were
At that
incredible.
moment,
Yeah,
they were
groundbreaking and all that.
brilliant.
Yeah.
Things have changed since then, so we'll not labour the point.
Yes.
But on Shane MacGowan, I mean, as I say, growing up with Shane MacGowan's music, as did yourself, you became friendly, you started working with him. How has that developed though? Because Big Lawrence, who the Acsom team will know, anybody in Glasgow knows him, I think. Big Lawrence says to him, "Oh, you need to get John on, he's working on For the Love of Shane MacGowan." So talk me through how that's developed.
Well, what that was literally it does what it says on the tin. Obviously, when Shane was clearly not well. Having said that, you know, with Shane, he just said this every year. People were saying Shane's thought it was amazing because, and everybody expected he just drank all the time. But when he was ill, he'd actually beat his demons in the last year. So God love him for that. But it was clear that he was obviously very, very seriously ill. And we were away, we were in the States. And I spoke to Victoria and stuff after he passed and everything. And originally we were just going to one night just to kind of celebrate. One night in London, one night in Glasgow. And I was going to sing some of the songs, some of my favourite Pogues songs and Shane songs. And it happened that there was an opportunity to do it at the Edinburgh Fringe last year. And Victoria said, "You should do that. It's a great idea. Then more people will see it." I said, "Okay." So started one night, that sold out straight away. I went, "Okay, 2 nights." So we done 9 shows at the Fringe. and it gave me a chance to do more songs, and I get my band joining Matt and the Faithful, who thankfully all great musicians, and so it was just an absolute joy. And I tell some stories your time. We've got a lot of great stories, and that's really how it was supposed to be a one-off, and then people seem to really like it.
Yeah.
And then we've been in Europe with it. We're back at the Fringe just now, doing it in the Voodoo Rooms. So they're all this week, this week. And then we're going to do a Christmas special now as well.
Brilliant.
And on the 12th of December, that'll be in the Classic Grand. So I just thought, Christmas, you got to do a Christmas special. So it's been great, and Victoria's been amazing with it. She comes over. Sometimes we get her on stage and we have a wee chin wag about our memories of Shane, and it's all done. A lot of it's done with humour, because he was a very funny guy as well as being a genius. So and it's just an honour and a privilege to sing these songs. And because I come from a kind of punk rock background, we kind of play them like the Pogues from 1985.
Yeah.
So they're played with a bit of that in it. So I'm if you get a chance, come along. Lawrence has been. Yes.
Lawrence says these were outstanding, John. You loved it.
I pay him well. It's on a payroll. So.
He said, no, seriously, he was raving about it. He was absolutely raving about it.
Good man.
Who does the female section of Fairy Tale in New York?
That's Kat in our band, so she's a whistle player as well.
Brilliant.
And she does that. And it's so weird, because we play it, and we were supporting the Saw Doctors there, and that was, like in June. And you've just got to play Fairy Tale New York, because it's not just the greatest Christmas song ever, it's one of the greatest songs ever written.
I know.
And the bizarre thing is, we get in a tent playing to 5,000 people, and it's sweating buckets outside, and everybody's singing Fairy Tale New York. It's bizarre and beautiful in equal measures.
It's, again, we were talking before we even started about that intrinsic link between football and music. We've always spoken about this on Acsom. I mean, 6 years ago when we were talking to yourself for the first time, it's football and it's music. And I think it comes to the energy that you get and the emotion that you feel at a football game being so similar to an event, a gig, a concert, a festival. And I'm thinking about, the song you're talking about there. The minute you hear that, there's so much emotion attached to Fairy Tale in New York. Memories from maybe Christmases past, people who are no longer here, singing with folk, that community aspect. Have you heard Christy Moore's version of it?
It's brilliant.
It's amazing.
Absolutely.
It's nothing like that. It's amazing.
And in his typical style. That's what makes it so great, only the way he can, But it's one of those songs, it's just so brilliantly written. You could do it in a kazoo and it would still sound great, so. But lyrically, and then you automatically think back to the video.
Yeah.
And the video is just so emotional, and that's, you get the whole Irishness and all that stuff as well. New York, the whole bit. So it's he's genius. So I'm proud to do it. I'm proud to do it, and I'm going to continue doing it, because I love singing these songs, and I love the band doing it, and it's me and all my mates. So it's the greatest time.
You've worked so hard though to get to that point. I mean, we've not focused on your kind of emergence as a songwriter. Obviously your early bands and your aspirations to be, in a band, and then realising, wait a minute, I can write songs here, and then understanding the machinations of the music industry, and I can write a song, and then this person sings it, and that's how it works. And you were hugely successful, but see, during that period, John, was it always in the back of your mind, I would love to get back to my roots of being a front man and have my own band?
Well, it's weird, because I had punk rock, right? So it was big punk rock bands. My band was Psychiatric Unit and all that, right? Getting nowhere. And so it wasn't for the want of trying, and for the love of punk rock. But when it suddenly dawned on me that we weren't getting a deal, probably because of me, I thought I went into panic mode. I thought, I'm going to have to get a job of some kind. And that was never, if I worked in Asda, I'd last two hours and they'd have me at the door. So I had
don't even have a music section anymore, John.
I know, it's just disappointing, so I couldn't even get amongst that. But no, it was really out of necessity and fear of having to get a new job. I thought songs, and my dad loved music, so we grew up with Irish music as well as Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin and Neil Diamond and all these kind of people, and so my dad loved music, so it kind of went in, and we used to listen to the radio all the time. My dad worked in McGee's Bakery delivering pies and all that, so we had the radio on all the time. That's where I got to hear the basic rollers and T-Rex, and so I grew up with all that, and these were great pop records. So some of that must have seeped in, and then when the boy band thing was just starting, I seen an opportunity. I thought, well, I might as well have a go here to try to write some pop songs, and nobody in London is going to pick up the phone to a guy from Milton. So I've got some songs for you. Oh, have you now? So a pal of mine started put band 911 together, pop band 911, and that's how it all started really. We built up a fan base for them and started having hits, and before you know it, it was hit after hit. Me and Gordon Gowdy, my mate who's in the Simple Minds at the moment, and he was in the Bunnymen. So we had the first bunch of hits, and then I met Simon Cowell, and then he asked me to write for
You turned him into a
Westlife.
Celtic fan as well.
I did. He's got in his office. He's got a big Celtic strip with Cowell #1 on it. So we made #1 for Westlife. So Queen of My Heart, I presented him with that,
Brilliant.
and it was in his office. So yeah, spreading the word, always spreading the word. So I actually got him some high shorts, Celtic shorts with
that's
an
right.
#7 on it. So
The long 1950s version. Yeah, absolutely. No, but I mean,
that's how it started. Really, that's how I started getting into pop music.
you had the knack. You had the knack, the ear
Yes,
for a pop song,
yeah,
John.
yeah. I could understand. I understood all the elements
Yeah.
to make a good pop song, and it seems easy, but it's actually pretty difficult to write a good pop song. And then you've got all the steps you've got to through, get it to the artist, to then get it by the management, the record company, and then hope it's a hit. You know, so there's loads and loads of things you've got to go through to get there. So I look back now. I'm not a guy who looks back a lot, but you kind of look back and you think, God, I got a couple of results there. Thank God that put me on a path, and led me to be able to work with people like Shane MacGowan and Ian McCulloch, you know, from the Bunnymen, who's great friend, and I adore the Bunnymen as well. And the Bay City Rollers, because I was having success when I wanted to put the Bay City Rollers back together again, people listened a wee bit more because they thought, well, maybe this guy could get it right because he's had a few away. So that enabled me to do things that I really, really loved doing.
Sounds like you've got the Midas touch, John. It does.
Well,
Got the Midas touch.
a few come off the crossbar, but I don't talk about it.
Now, Bay City Rollers then, right?
Yes.
Slightly before my time, not massively, but slightly before my time. But last year I'm at Celtic Park, and you get talking to the people you're at the game with, and I'm talking to Danny, formerly an editor, I believe, of the Celtic View.
So it was. I didn't know that until recently. Aye.
And he's just chatting away, and Celtic daft music fan.
Big Celtic,
And he
yeah.
starts telling me about a project at that stage that might have been in its kind of early, you know, Genesis kind of stage, embryonic stage. Tell us a wee bit about the Bay City Rollers for any of the younger viewers who don't know the phenomenon, and how you've become involved yourself.
Well, the Bay City Rollers, when I was growing up, I was maybe 7 or 8, and they were the biggest band in the world. Shang-a-Lang, I'm sure even the young crew will know Shang-a-Lang. And Bye Bye Baby, they've been in loads and loads of films, so I'm sure they'll know if they don't know them. But they were the tartan-clad boys from Edinburgh, from the housing schemes in Edinburgh, who became the biggest band in the world for 4 years. Songs like Saturday Night and Only Want to Be With You and Shang-a-Lang in particular. And so I loved this, and I remember watching them on the telly. They had their own show called Shang-a-Lang, and they're playing away, and I seen all the screaming girls, and I thought, well, this looks like a good idea, even at 8. And then I heard them talk, and I thought, oh God, they sound like me. So that's what kind of probably accidentally got my brain. And I loved the songs, the excitement in the songs, and I loved how they looked. And so that was always kind of stayed with me. And they might not have been regarded as the trendiest band in the world, especially as they went on. But that, do you know why that is? Because they were so successful. Bands get so successful and then they get poo-pooed.
Yeah.
But I don't think they ever got the credit they deserve, because they were a great band with great songs. But years later, I would always, you know, keep playing these records, and they were like big Phil Spector records to me, kind of thing, the sound of them. And just as it always went on. And so I used to take some of their structures and put them into pop records. In fact, one of the 911 songs is called Love Sensation as opposed to Summer Love Sensation. So, yeah, must have seeped in right there. But years later, through the success of pop records, I got the opportunity to meet Les, Woody and Alan, and we decided, let's have another run round the block and do a reunion. And it just went straight away to see 4 nights in the Barrowlands, Hammersmith Apollo 2 nights. We went abroad, came back, done the Hydro, played Tea in the Park.
It's incredible.
Tea in the Park was incredible because the boys were really nervous about Tea in the Park because they thought nobody's going to come and see us because they're going to be like, who are these guys? But what a joy that was, seeing when they came on the stage and there was 25,000 people of a certain age, younger and older, and kids on shoulders, or going Tonto to Shangling and all that. It was brilliant. So fiercely proud of it, and I'm still doing it now with Woody. We go out and we're just back from Canada playing huge shows. They're still worldly renowned, you know. So, and I met Danny and we decided let's do a musical. I thought that'd been the next thing. So we'll get Rollers Forever, which is on, I think it's 14 or 15 nights in the Pavilion. Just started a couple of nights ago, and it's brilliant. You know, it's not any highbrow thing, right? And Danny's an amazing writer, so he's done exactly what we wanted him to do. It's funny, it's Scottish, Glasgow, Edinburgh patter, with a whole bunch of Bay City Roller songs rolled into one. It's just a great night out, and just that's. I just wanted people to go away with a smile on their face, and just come out and have it and just go, that was brilliant, and that's exactly what it's done. So I'm already fiercely proud of it, and I think we're going to take it right across the UK and Ireland, America and Canada next year. So
Brilliant.
Well done, Danny and the gang.
Yeah, you go from the Celtic editor, Celtic
There
editor,
you go.
you know, up to this world tour. But I'll tell you, Danny, when we were talking about it, he was pitching it to me. I'm thinking, right, before my time, but he had me intrigued. And he's an award-winning writer. He's a fantastic writer. Another thing I want to talk to you about, because obviously you've got a lot going on, but you've got this friendship with Rod Stewart.
Yes.
And Rod, I remember I was writing Andy Lynch's book, and he spoke about how Rod had, I think it was it Dalglish that he loved, Kenny Dalglish, Rod Stewart, and they all ended up going on a night out. And from that moment on, Rod was definitely a Celtic man.
Yeah.
And Andy was there. Maybe Dixie Deans was out that night, Kenny Dalglish and Rod Stewart. And then obviously whatever happens on the night out stays on the night out, John.
That's it.
But he has become one of these kind of celebrity Celtic fans. And obviously you've got a really tight friendship with him as well. You've performed with him. You've done these gigs with him. And I remember your single, the video with Rod
That's right.
Stewart.
We're all in it. Yeah.
So how did you get to know Rod?
Well, it's funny because I do a bunch of songs for Celtic again, just because I love it. You know, people like them, people don't, whatever. I just like doing it. So it's great. It's a lot better than hearing that at the stadium when you hear your songs at the stadium. But Rod being a huge Celtic fan, I'd see him at some of the games and stuff, but I didn't actually know him. And I'd written some songs, obviously, for Celtic, and then they used a chunk of one on the Celtic training, you know, when you watch the training. And Rod's obsessed by Celtic. I mean, it's like he has a Celtic da. He's got this beautiful house, and he's got pictures of Jock Stein and Ken Douglas everywhere. His gym is just, you know, it's millions of Celtic tops, and when you see him, right, he cuts about in all the regalia.
Yeah.
He just loves it. You've got his Celtic emblem on all the time. And so he heard this chunk of a song and he loved it, and he rewrote it and put it on his album, and he tried to track down who wrote it, and he found out it was me. So I got an email one day just saying, Johnny, Rod Stewart here, blah, blah, blah. I've heard this song. I hope you don't mind. I've rewritten it and I've put it on my album. I thought it was one of my mates taking the piss, you know, so I just kind of... And then another one, is this okay? And contact the publisher and all that. And my wife phoned me, she went, I think that is Rod Stewart. And then they sent another one, so look, just phone me, because I think he got the impression that I thought it was. And I phoned him, it was undeniably Rod Stewart. And we got on, we're talking about Celtic, obviously. And he said, where are you tomorrow? I says, well, I'm up in Glasgow. I said, I'm coming up. And he just flew up. We went to the pub, and we were just having the greatest time. And then I ended up quite a long day out, and we ended up singing Celtic songs and all that. And then he said to me, you're not a bad singer, wee man. I was like, no, I can carry a tune. Celtic songs, I can carry a tune. He's like, get a band together, you coming in tour with us, stadium tour. And that's literally how it happened. I was like, better get a band together, get some songs and all that. And he wanted me to come and do it, and he wanted me to make it sound Pogues, Irish,
Yeah.
you know, Saw Doctors. Or he wanted that before his performances. So we were away playing, you know, the Stadium of Light and all, and big cricket grounds in York Racecourse, you know, 34. Cork, the Shinty Stadium there, 50 odd thousand. That was my second gig. you know. It was just, and we done the Fields of Athenry.
Oh, John.
And he said to me, do the Fields of Athenry, you'll only need to sing the first verse, sing the first verse, and the whole crowd sang it. So moments like that are just, so I've got a lot to thank Rod for, just, because that's him, that's typical Rod. You just go, you're doing this. And
Well, you're not going to say no.
You're not going to say no. You're not going to say no at all. So
the thing is, I remember probably in the 90s when Sky Sports were covering Scottish football, and there was this wee segment of the show where it was you seen Rod Stewart in the crowd with Dean Holdsworth. Remember, he used to play with Middlesbrough.
that's right.
And then they went down to they pre-recorded this video down in Rod's gaff, wherever it was, and there was a football park out the back and everything. And it was only then that I thought, he is a mad Celtic fan.
Aye.
And then I seen he'd done a gig with Kylie Minogue, I think it was maybe live at New Year or something, with a Celtic crest on his bass drum, and he does Glastonbury, and you know, and there's all these wee moments, like he's obviously had a few jars and he's singing with Liam McGrandles. Then he does the draw, and it was hilarious.
That was genius.
But he gets a hard time. He gets a real hard time.
He does.
And you're thinking to yourself, right, Rod Stewart, I mean, he's in his 80s now, right?
Yeah, it's just
Fit as a fiddle as well.
Oh, aye. He's trying to break the 100 metres for over 80s. Just now he's getting there. So,
That's
yeah.
sensational. But I remember, because you and I had spoken 6 years ago, and I knew about your friendship, and I've spoken to other people who have maybe worked with him and thought, I said, really, he actually really is a Celtic fan. He does all this stuff under the radar,
He does.
foundation and stuff.
Yep.
Do you think he gets too much of a hard time?
It is. I mean, it says mental stuff sometimes. We all do, right? And so it is, and that's obviously, that doesn't go down so well with certain elements, and that's fine, you know. But a lot of stuff he does tongue in cheek as well, but he's one of the loveliest people you could ever hope to meet. And you see, I see the things that he does, and it's pretty incredible, you know. And again, it's all under the radar. Doesn't want anything. Doesn't want, and so he's a lovely, lovely person, a great guy, and he would do you a turn all day long, you know. Strangers, and he's a great guy and a huge, huge Celtic fan. It's definitely in his heart and his soul for sure, like the song says.
That's a great way to finish. John, thanks
Thanks,
once again for joining me
Thank
on
you.
A Celtic State of Mind.
Thank you. Great to see you.
Thanks again for joining us on A Celtic State of Mind. Join us next Friday at 6 o'clock for This is Acsom.